Think back to the last time you sat down at your desk, opened up an AI tool, and stared at that blinking cursor in the empty prompt box. Maybe you were an accountant trying to summarize a dry 70-page tax update. Maybe you were an HR manager trying to draft an internal memo about a highly sensitive policy change. Something you knew would make people upset and you needed the tone to be absolutely perfect. Or maybe you are a real estate agent trying to write a property description that makes a standard 3-bedroom house sound like a mid-century masterpiece. You typed out what felt like a reasonable request. You hit enter and then you watch the text scroll onto the screen. But what did you actually get? A wall of hyper-formal robotic fluff. It used words like develop, testament, synergy, in conclusion, crucial to remember. It sounded like it was written by a committee of corporate lawyers from the mid-1990s. If you're like most people, your immediate reaction was probably a mix of frustration and disappointment. You sighed, deleted the whole thing, and just wrote it yourself from scratch. And as you closed the tab, you thought to yourself, this is just a glorified search engine. It's a hyped up gimmick. If you have felt that way, I want to tell you something comforting. You are completely right to be frustrated, but the fault doesn't lie with you, and it doesn't even fully lie with the technology. The fault lies with how the tech industry explained this tool to you. When this current wave of artificial intelligence exploded onto the scene, everyone felt completely overwhelmed. The industry immediately started using terms like the artificial general intelligence, neural networks, and the machine consciousness. They try to convince you that there is a digital brain inside your computer that is actively thinking, reasoning, and understanding your human problems. But it isn't. And that lie is exactly why your prompts are failing. Here is the foundational truth we need to establish if you ever want to actually save hours of your work week. AI is not thinking. It is playing a hyper-advanced mathematical game of word association. Once you understand that single logic, everything changes. You stop treating the prompt box like a search engine and you start directing it like a system. Over the next 25 minutes, we are going to look under the hood of this predictive mind completely without code so you can finally make it do exactly what you want. To understand how a large language model, what the tech world calls an LLM, actually operates, let's step completely away from computers. I want you to close your eyes, if you're not driving, and just picture an image. Imagine an infinite circular library. The shelves stretch up into the dark, miles high, packed with every piece of text ever written by human beings. Every book, every blog, every post, every digitized tax code, every movie script, and every public email thread. Now, sitting at the desk in the center of this library is a clerk. This library clerk has a very specific, unique condition. They have never actually read a single one of these books for its meaning. The clerk has no idea what a house actually looks like. They have never experienced the stress of a HR budget meeting. They don't know the physical sensation of holding a dollar bill, and they have never ever felt a single human emotion like empathy, anger, or joy. To the clerk, language isn't a vessel of ideas, it's just a series of shapes. However, the clerk has a terrifying superpower. They have spent an eternity walking across these aisles, looking at the patterns of these shapes across billions of pages. They have completely memorized the exact mathematical probability of which word sits next to each other. If you walk up to this clerk's desk and you hand them a scrap of paper that has 4 words written on it, the cat sat on, what do you think happens? The clerk doesn't picture a furry animal walking across the living room. They don't care about cats. Instead, their massive statistical brain activates. They look at the pattern of your 4 words and instantly calculate every time that exact sequence has appeared in the history of the library. They say to themselves, in 90% of the pages I have ever seen in this library, the word that follows the cat sat on is the word the mat. In 8% of the pages, the next word is the couch. In 2%, it's the refrigerator. The clerk doesn't think. They just give you the word that is most statistically likely to come next based on the pattern you have started. They are a prediction engine. This isn't a loose analogy. This is literally how the technology works. When you read the foundational research papers, specifically the core papers published by researchers that kicked off this entire modern AI era, this is the exact architecture they have designed. They built a system that calculates statistical weights between words. When you type a prompt into an AI, the system looks at your words and asks a purely mathematical question based on everything humans have ever uploaded to the internet. What is the most logical next word to generate? Let's translate what this means for your daily profession. If you are an accountant and the AI doesn't understand the corporate tax code, if you are an accountant, AI doesn't understand the corporate tax code. It will simply understand the linguistic patterns of how tax lawyers and the accountants write when they discuss the tax code. If you are a real estate agent, AI doesn't know why an open concept kitchen makes a buyer feel warm and excited. It just knows which adjective usually cluster around the phrases luxury listing across thousands of real estate websites. When you get a bad robotic response from an AI, it's not because the AI is stupid. It's because your prompt was so broad that you left the library clerk standing in the middle of the library with no directions. When the clerk doesn't know which specific aisle to look in, they default to the most generic, statistically average corporate fluff in the entire building. To get an incredible output, you don't need to learn how to code. You just need to learn how to walk that clerk to the exact shelf they need to look at. Let's look at a practical real-world example of how this plays out in an office environment. Let's look at Sarah. Sarah is an HR manager at a mid-sized logistics company. It's Monday morning and she has an incredibly difficult task on her plate. The company management has decided to transition the entire team from a fully remote work model back to a 3-day-a-week hybrid office schedule. Sarah knows the staff is going to be incredibly frustrated, anxious, and resistant to this news. Sarah opens up an AI app. Because she still has the search engine mindset, she treats the prompt box like Google. She wants a quick result, so she types in a brief, direct keyword command. Write a hybrid work policy announcement for the staff. Let's pause and look at this through the eyes of a library clerk. The clerk receives an instruction, write a hybrid work policy announcement. The clerk thinks, okay, I've seen millions of corporate policy announcements in my library. What do they usually sound like? Because Sarah gave no specific instruction about tone, culture, boundaries, the clerk goes to the most average, sterile, bureaucratic shelf in the library. The clerk's predictive engine begins churning out the most statistically probable word found in old corporate handbooks. Dear valued employees, please be advised that effective next month, optimization of our operational synergy requires a multifaceted alignment of our workplace paradigms. Attendance in the physical office space is mandatory for 3 diurnal cycles per week. Sarah reads the first 2 sentences, cringes, closes the app, and spends the next 2 hours writing it herself. She thinks the tool is a failure. But now let's rerun the exact same scenario, except this time Sarah understands that she is talking to a predictive text clerk. She realizes that if she wants a human empathetic response, she has to manually block the clerk from accessing the sterile bureaucratic shelves. She has to build an invisible fence around the words the clerk is allowed to choose. She clears the box and she writes a new input. She doesn't use a single piece of technical jargon or code. She just uses clear, structured guidance. The new prompt is: act as an incredibly empathetic, transparent HR director speaking directly to a tired but dedicated team. We are announcing a transition to a 3-day in-office hybrid schedule. Acknowledge upfront and honestly that this change is going to be difficult for the people to adjust, and explicitly state that management deeply values their personal time and autonomy. Keep the tone warm, clear, and thoroughly human. You have a strict constraint: do not use any corporate buzzwords or empty phrases like synergy, paradigm, operational, optimization, etc. Start the very first sentence with an expression of genuine gratitude for their hard work over the past year. Let's dissect exactly what happens inside the predictive engine where Sarah hits enter this time. First, by telling the clerk to act as an empathetic HR director, she forces the mathematical model to ignore the cold, legalistic corporate handbooks. The system shifts its probability map towards text patterns that represents leadership psychology, internal communications focused on retention and crisis management. Second, by introducing a strict constraint: do not use corporate buzzwords like synergy or paradigm, she literally adjusts the mathematical weight of the specific words to 0. She tells the clerk, no matter how statistically probable these words might seem in a corporate memo, you are forbidden from picking them. Third, by dictating how to start the first sentence, that is, start with an expression of genuine gratitude, she sets the track for the train. Because the clerk must start with words of thanks, the next most likely words the predictive engine calculates will naturally be warm, supportive, and respectful. When the output generates, it reads like a memo written by an actual leader who cares about their team. It saves Sarah 2 hours of emotional labor and drafting time. Sarah didn't need a degree in computer science to achieve this. She didn't need to know how neural networks calculate vectors. She simply understood that the AI is a pattern matching machine, and she became an expert at defining the boundaries of the pattern. As we bring this first episode to a close, I don't want you to just listen to this narration, turn off your screen, and go back to your old habits. The only way to truly master this mindset shift is to see the predictive mind operate in real time with your own eyes, or rather your own ears. So here is your direct, immediate assignment for your drive home, your walk, or while you're cooking dinner tonight. Take out your smartphone, open up whatever AI app you use, whether it's on your phone or your computer, and switch it into its voice interaction mode. Instead of typing anything out into a keyboard, you're going to speak to it directly. I want you to say these exact words into the microphone. I want to test your predictive mind. I am a professional working in my industry, and I have a specific frustrating administrative task that drains my time every single week. I want you to act as an elite administrative consultant. Do not give me any generic advice or solution set. Instead, I want you to ask me 3 highly targeted, sharp questions about my workflow so you can figure out exactly what kind of tailored assistant I need. Ask me the questions one by one and wait for my response. When you say that, stop and listen carefully to how the voice mode responds. Notice how it doesn't just blurt out pre-packaged generic answers like a search engine would. Watch how it processes your specific professional constraint. Watch how it instantly narrows its entire internal library of billions of pages down to a laser focus point that is completely unique to your career, your daily stress, and your specific operational headache. Listen to the questions it asks you, answer them honestly, and watch the library clerk go to work specifically for you. Stop looking for magic. Stop expecting a digital consciousness. Start controlling the pattern, set the boundaries, and guide the clerk. Thank you for listening to this maiden session. We'll see you in the next time at the AI desk.